Good morning. It's Miss Mermaid with your super science lesson for the day. Topic we'll be discussing are protists. Very exciting. The world of unicellular, single-celled, one-celled organisms that are an entire animal. Yes, one cell. So this can be really boring unless you know what you're talking about and realize the power inside the protist. We have a couple things we need to talk about before we jump right into protist. As I said, they're one cell, unicellular, single-celled, all means the same thing. Unicellular, that prefix, U and I, means one. We're going to talk about 4 fantastic protists today. We're going to talk about the Euglena, Volvox, my favorite, the Amoeba, and the Paramecium. The protists that we're going to be discussing today are eukaryotes. Can you say that? Eukaryotes. That just means they have a nucleus. A nucleus takes over controlling everything. That's a whole nother exciting story. But eukaryotes means they just have a nucleus. So the protists that we are looking at have a nucleus and are eukaryotes. What we really care about with these 4 protists are how they eat, how they move, any special structures they might have. A special structure includes anything different or that makes them unique or that gives them a heads up in the protist world. So we're going to start with Euglena. The Euglena is incredibly unique and amazing because it can eat in 2 different ways. Okay, sure, that doesn't sound exciting, but a Euglena can be plant-like or animal-like. Plant-like in the fact that if there's an environment with light, it can use chloroplast to do photosynthesis and make its own food. So, Euglena, plant-like, it's got chloroplast, and has this really special structure called an eye spot. Now, it doesn't see like your eyes, but it detects light, and it helps the Euglena find the light. So, it needs to find light so that it can do photosynthesis. However, Euglenas, like I said, are super unique Euglenas. So if they're in an environment where there's no light, they can act animal-like or as like a consumer. They can eat other things. Now remember, we're talking about a single-celled organism. So it's not going to go eat an apple or a piece of bacon. It's going to eat tiny particles in the water. These protists are in water. So we've got a Euglena. It can be animal-like or plant-like, meaning it can make its own food or eat other things. Now, how does it move? Well, it's got to get through the water somehow. It has a really fantastic tail called a flagella. It's got a flagella. This flagella or flagellum is a whip-like structure. So it propels the Euglena through the water. It's pretty fantastic. So that's what you need to know about Euglena. Pretty simple. It's got a whip-like tail called a flagellum. It's got an eye spot to detect light so that it can either perform photosynthesis and be plant-like, or it can be animal-like in low light or dark environments and act as a consumer. Moving on to my very favorite one, the amoeba. Amoebas have an extension of the cytoplasm called a pseudopod. It's spelled with a P, but it's a pseudopod. So this extension of the cytoplasm, the pseudopod, they like to call it a false foot. It's not a foot like us or like what I have or like what a dog has, but it's an extension of a cytoplasm, and it reaches that cytoplasm out and traps its food and then engulfs it. So the word engulf just means surround and take over and eat. And an amoeba is animal-like. That means it's a consumer. It eats other things. It cannot make its own food. So an amoeba moves with a pseudopod, and it engulfs its food. Pretty exciting. It's animal-like, and it engulfs its food. Later on, maybe in another video, I'll tell you about the brain-eating amoeba, a single cell that if you're in the lake water in the perfect conditions, now don't be scared because it's sort of rare, an amoeba that's brain-eating can go into your nose, into your brain, and most of the time you die from a brain-eating amoeba. A single cell, they are savage. I am telling you, they are savage. Moving on to the Paramecium. Paramecium is an oval-shaped protist, and it is covered in tiny hairs. These tiny hairs are called cilia, rhymes with Amelia. Cilia are these tiny hairs that are all over the Paramecium, and they propel the Paramecium through the water. So the way that a Paramecium moves is by these cilia. Do you hear my dogs? They're very excited about the protist lesson. So the Paramecium Oh, they're really getting rowdy. The paramecium, thanks for your focus and understanding. The paramecium is animal-like. Now, remember what animal-like means. It's not talking about being a dog or like my barking dogs. Animal-like is a consumer. It eats other things. It's not making its own food. So, paramecium, covered in cilia, the tiny hairs that move it, and it's animal-like, eats other things. And it eats through an oral groove or a gullet, which is just a little space in the cell. So, that's pretty much it. We've got our 4 protists we talk about. Euglena, Paramecium, Amoeba, and Volvox. We missed Volvox. Where's the Volvox? Well, I'll tell you about the Volvox. The Volvox is circular and it's plant-like. It uses chloroplast to make its own food. So it's plant-like. It's not unique like the Euglena where it can be either. It's just plant-like. But the Volvox are pretty cool because they travel as a colony in a group. They can't be alone. So they travel as a colony, and as a colony, they have like a group flagellum, which is really cool. And if you remember, that flagellum is that whip-like tail that propels them through water. So Volvox travels in colonies, and it's plant-like. The Volvox also has an eye spot like the Euglena that detects light. And that eye spot is just sensitive to light, so it can bring the protist to the light to make its own food. So I hope that you've had a fantastic journey with me through protists, and we'll see you next time.
Did you hit stop?
No, I'm still recording, but it's the whole face.
Okay.